You know the moment. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker takes credit for your work. Someone you trusted lies to your face. And something inside you ignites. Your jaw tightens. Your pulse quickens. Your vision narrows. And before you can think clearly, words leave your mouth that you cannot take back. Actions follow that you will spend weeks regretting. This is anger. And Seneca, one of the greatest minds in human history, called it the most destructive of all emotions. He wrote an entire book about it, not because anger was rare in his time, but because he understood what most people refuse to accept. Anger does not make you powerful. It makes you a slave. Seneca wrote, quote, "Anger is a brief madness, and it is necessary to guard against it." End quote. He did not call it an emotion. He did not call it a feeling. He called it madness. And if you are honest with yourself, you know he is right. Think about the last time you were truly angry. Were you rational? Were you measured? Were you the best version of yourself? No, you were temporarily insane. You said things you did not mean. You made decisions based on the worst possible interpretation of events. You acted as though the entire world was against you. Seneca studied anger the way a doctor studies disease. He catalogued its symptoms, its causes, its progression, and its cure. He observed that anger begins with a judgment, an interpretation that someone has wronged you. It then escalates through a series of physical and mental changes that hijack your rational mind, and it ends, almost without exception, in regret. He wrote, quote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay," end quote. Not suppression, not denial, delay. Because anger is a fire that burns hot and fast. If you can survive the first few minutes without acting, the flames die on their own. Here is the uncomfortable truth about anger that nobody wants to admit. It feels good. It feels righteous. It feels powerful. When someone wrongs you and rage floods your body, there is a moment where you feel invincible, untouchable, like a force of nature. This is the trap. Marcus Aurelius understood this trap perfectly. He wrote, quote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it," end quote. The momentary feeling of power is an illusion. Anger does not give you power over the situation. It gives the situation power over you. When you react in anger, you have handed control of your behavior to the person who provoked you. They chose your emotional state. They chose your words. They chose your actions. And you call that power. The truly powerful person in any conflict is not the one who explodes. It is the one who remains calm, the one who sees clearly while everyone else is blinded by emotion, the one who chooses their response instead of having it chosen for them. Epictetus gave us the framework that makes anger management not just possible, but simple. He said, quote, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him." End quote. Read that again. The person who angers you becomes your master, not because they have power over you, but because you have given them power over you. You have decided that their words, their actions, their opinions matter enough to destroy your peace. The Stoic framework for anger has 3 steps. Step 1, pause. When you feel anger rising, do absolutely nothing. Do not speak. Do not move. Do not react. Just breathe. Seneca recommended counting to 10. Modern neuroscience confirms that the hormonal surge of anger peaks at about 90 seconds. If you can wait 90 seconds without acting, your rational brain regains control. Step 2, examine the judgment. Ask yourself, what am I telling myself about this situation? Is it true? Is it the only interpretation? Almost always, your anger is based on an assumption, not a fact. The person who cut you off might be rushing to a hospital. The coworker who took credit might not realize they did it. The friend who did not call might be going through their own crisis. Step 3, choose your response, not react. Respond. There is a world of difference. A reaction is automatic, emotional, and usually regrettable. A response is deliberate, rational, and aligned with who you want to be. Seneca catalogued the cost of anger with brutal precision. He wrote, quote, "No plague has cost the human race more dearly than anger." End quote. Consider what anger has cost you in your own life. The relationships damaged by words spoken in rage, the opportunities lost because you could not control your temper, the respect forfeited when people watched you lose control, the days, weeks, months spent replaying angry confrontations in your mind, poisoning your present with the acid of the past. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by enemies his entire reign, senators who plotted against him, generals who betrayed him, advisors who lied to him. He had every reason to be angry every single day. Instead, he wrote, quote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." End quote. He chose not to become what he fought against. That is not weakness. That is the hardest kind of strength there is. Because anger is easy. Anyone can rage. A child can throw a tantrum. But to face injustice, betrayal, and provocation with calm and clarity, that requires a level of discipline that most people never develop. There is a form of anger that is perhaps more destructive than any other. It is the anger you direct at yourself. You made a mistake. You failed. You did not live up to your own standards. And instead of examining what happened and learning from it, you berate yourself. You call yourself names. You replay the failure over and over, each time adding more contempt, more disappointment, more self-loathing. Marcus Aurelius addressed this directly. He wrote, quote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." End quote. But his version of being strict with himself was not self-punishment. It was self-correction. There is a critical difference between self-correction and self-destruction. Self-correction says, "I made a mistake, and here is what I will do differently next time." It is forward-looking, constructive, and empowering. Self-destruction says, "I am a failure. I am worthless. I cannot do anything right." It is backward-looking, corrosive, and paralyzing. The Stoics practiced what we might call rational self-compassion, not the soft, indulgent kind that makes excuses, but the kind that says, "I am human. Humans make mistakes. The only question that matters is what I do next." The Stoics did not teach that anger should be eliminated. They taught that it should be transformed. Raw anger is destructive, but the energy behind anger, the fierce determination that something is wrong and must change, that energy is invaluable. When properly channeled, Epictetus was a slave who was beaten, degraded, and denied his basic humanity. He had every right to burn with anger. Instead, he transformed that energy into philosophy, so powerful that emperors came to learn from him. He took the fire that could have consumed him and used it to illuminate the world. When you feel angry, ask yourself this question: what is this anger trying to protect? Usually, it is protecting something you care deeply about: your dignity, your sense of fairness, someone you love. The anger is a signal, not a solution. Acknowledge the signal, then put the energy to work. If someone treated you unfairly, channel the energy into creating boundaries that prevent it from happening again. If the world feels unjust, channel the energy into making your corner of it better. If you are angry at yourself, channel the energy into becoming the person you know you can be. Seneca spent decades studying anger, practicing control, and teaching others to master their temper. At the end of his life, facing his own execution by the Emperor Nero, he remained calm. He spoke clearly. He comforted those around him who were weeping. And he died with the same composure he had spent a lifetime cultivating. That is what mastery of anger looks like. Not the absence of provocation, not the absence of injustice, but the presence of something stronger than both. The presence of a mind that has been trained, day after day, to choose response over reaction, to choose clarity over chaos, to choose strength over surrender. The next time anger rises in your chest, remember Seneca's words: Anger is brief madness, and you do not have to be mad. You can pause, you can breathe, you can examine the story you are telling yourself, and you can choose a response worthy of the person you want to become. The fire inside you is not your enemy, it is raw material. What you build with it is your choice.